Good morning, welcome to Breakfast with Roger Johnson and Nina Warhurst.
Good morning. Our headlines today ahead of an announcement on new coronavirus restrictions, a final night out for some, and last-minute meetings in government to iron out the details.
A warning the country's at a tipping point in the fight against COVID-19 from England's Deputy Chief Medical Officer.
Donald Trump's doctors say that he is no longer at risk of spreading coronavirus, meaning he can resume his election campaign.
Good morning. Can they do the double? Exeter remain on track for domestic and European glory after beating Bath to reach the Premiership final.
Special hello, how are you? Going out right now to Mrs. Teresa Duncan.
The DJ who spent 50 years making a programme in his garage that only his wife could hear finally gets an audience of thousands, but it's in the US.
Good morning. Lighter winds, fewer showers and plenty of sunshine. That's how Sunday's shaping up. I'll have all the details coming up very shortly.
Hello, good morning. It's Sunday the 11th of October. Our top story today talks on tough new coronavirus restrictions for the worst hit parts of England will take place today. The discussions between the government and local leaders will be held ahead of an expected announcement on the new rules by the Prime Minister tomorrow.
Well, England's Deputy Chief Medical Officer has warned the country is at a tipping point in what he called our national fight against COVID-19. John McManus reports.
It's been a tough year so far, and it's understandable that people are keen to unwind. With further restrictions on socialising looming, last night in Liverpool, many were making the most of what may be a final weekend of partying, for now at least. It seems that for some parts of the country, a difficult winter may be on the way, and the government needs the public to cooperate.
I think it could be managed a lot better. I don't think all this lockdown thing works, everybody going home at 10 o'clock. I think that it could be managed better.
I haven't told any bars or that what to expect, so as of Monday we're getting an announcement, but we don't know what we're being announced to, you know, so it's kind of like, is everything going to be shut down, or are you just planning on like close certain things or what? Like nobody has any idea.
I think we would support any measures that keep people safe, but as long as business owners were supported by the government, we'd be happy with that.
The expected new rules may have a particular impact on parts of the north of England because that's where infections are rising fastest. The details are still being finalised, but they're expected to focus on a three-tier system. The worst affected areas could be subject to pub closures, restaurant restrictions and bans on indoor and outdoor mixing. But the mayors of some northern regions say the government's latest plans to support staff whose industries need to close don't go far enough.
When the state says, you know, you may not go to work, you may not trade, then people should be getting 100% compensation. Being paid 2/3 of your wages, especially if you're on minimum wage, is not acceptable.
The political arguments are taking place against a backdrop of renewed warnings about the virus. England's Deputy Chief Medical Officer, Prof Jonathan Van-Tam, says the country is now at a similar point to where it was in March. That was when infections were rising and there were fears the NHS would be overwhelmed. But with better testing and treatments, he says history doesn't have to repeat itself. Also key, of course, is controlling the rate of transmission. The Prime Minister's statement on Monday is expected to point to how that might be achieved. John McManus, BBC News.
Let's speak with our political correspondent Jessica Parker, who's in London for us this morning. Jess, the papers this morning again filled with more speculation about what's likely to happen tomorrow. We don't know much for certain. What will happen today?
Yeah, so we think conversations are going to continue going on between Downing Street and local leaders. I think we know Number 10 pretty keen to be seen to be engaging with regional leaders after they were accused of basically doing the opposite previously. So those conversations will carry on. And as John was reporting tomorrow, we expect to hear from the Prime Minister in the House of Commons, likely laying out this new three-tier system of restrictions, each tier being a different level of restrictions. Of course, yesterday we heard from the Liverpool Labour City Mayor Joe Anderson, who was saying he expected his area to be in Tier 3, the most severe set of restrictions where you could, for example, see pub closures. And it comes, as John was saying there, as a group of Labour mayors led by Andy Burnham, the Greater Manchester mayor, have really said that the accompanying financial package that will come alongside these restrictions announced by Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor, on Friday just isn't enough. He was saying, for example, if you're on the minimum wage and your place of work is forced to close, being paid 2/3 of your wages will not be enough to make ends meet. Now, the government's saying it's offered an unprecedented level of financial support. It's only part of a package of measures. But I think as that argument may rumble on over this week, at least tomorrow we are going to hear some confirmation as to exactly what is going on, because millions of people, of course, across the country waiting to hear what level of restrictions they're going to be living under going forward in England. That wait now soon will be over.
Jess, many thanks. And at 8:30, we'll be speaking to Jamie Driscoll, who's the North of Tyne mayor, about the implications of the new measures.
6:05, President Trump has held his first public event since being hospitalised with COVID-19.
Yeah, delivering a speech from the balcony of the White House, Mr. Trump told hundreds of cheering supporters that he was feeling great. But there's been criticism over a lack of social distancing.
Live to our North America correspondent, David Willis. He's in Los Angeles for us this morning. David, morning to you. How's the president's speech been received there?
Well, I should have to say to you, Roger, that a lot of people are now very much astonished by the latest doctor's note that has come out here. President Trump's doctors basically saying that all of his symptoms have improved, that he has had no signs of fever for the last 24 hours, and basically that he poses no threat of transmission to others. What they're not saying is whether he is tested negative for COVID-19. And of course, they've been very guarded throughout this whole process ever since President Trump was actually diagnosed with the coronavirus. The president himself said earlier today that he's feeling pretty well, but he didn't seize the chance to say that he tested negative for COVID-19. And you would have thought that had he done so, then he wouldn't be able to resist telling everybody, but he didn't. It was a rally in front of about 400 people at the White House today, and the president, of course, has been itching to get back on the campaign trail. He's largely been quarantined, of course, for more than the last week, and he's seen his Democratic rival Joe Biden out there on the hustings and extending his lead in nationwide polls, Roger.
David, thank you very much indeed. David Willis there.
A Scottish MP who was suspended from the SNP for taking a train from London to Glasgow after testing positive for COVID-19 has defied calls to resign. In an interview with the Scottish Sun on Sunday, Margaret Ferrier said she panicked and that the virus made her act, quote, out of character. She added that her hard work and dedication shouldn't be wiped away for what she called an error of judgment.
The number of people who've died from COVID-19 in Brazil has now passed 150,000. This means it's got the second highest death toll in the world after the United States. The number of confirmed cases in the country passed 5 million earlier this week. President Jair Bolsonaro has been criticised for his handling of the pandemic and accused of downplaying the risks of the virus.
The BCG vaccine has been protecting millions of children worldwide against tuberculosis for nearly a century, but scientists are now hoping it may help to save lives from COVID-19.
Yeah, researchers believe that the vaccine causes widespread changes to the immune system, which could help in the protection against other infections like coronavirus. And now a UK-based trial is being launched to test the theory. Here's our science correspondent, James Gallagher.
In the fight against COVID, scientists are turning to one of our oldest vaccines.
A new preventive weapon has now joined the battle. BCG vaccine.
The BCG jab was designed to fight tuberculosis and was first trialled in 1921. It's since been given to hundreds of millions of people. But now doctors think its effect on the immune system may lessen the impact of coronavirus too. Sam Hilton is a GP. His job dealing with patients puts him at higher risk of getting COVID. He's one of 1,000 people in the UK, including care home staff and other healthcare workers, who will take part in the trial. Having had the vaccine in childhood will not offer protection today.
There's quite a good theory behind why the BCG vaccine might make you less likely to get unwell when you get COVID. So I guess I see it as a potential for me to be protected a bit, which means I'm more likely to be able to come to work this winter.
Sam will get either the BCG jab or a dummy injection. Then researchers will wait to see if the vaccine either alters the odds of getting COVID or the severity of the infection. The data collected here in Exeter will be combined with studies in Australia, the Netherlands, Spain and Brazil. There's no evidence BCG will help in the pandemic, so why do researchers think it might? This seems odd. Vaccines are supposed to protect against one specific infection, so why might a tuberculosis jab also have a benefit in coronavirus? Well, there's some interesting science that suggests that vaccines may have a wide effect across the whole of the immune system that may give our bodies an edge against other viruses and infections too. And indeed, in trials with the BCG jab, there has been a fall in death rates from other infections after people were vaccinated. The World Health Organization says the BCG jab might help bridge the gap until a dedicated coronavirus vaccine is developed.
This could be of huge importance globally because BCG, whilst we don't think it is, it's not specific against COVID, but it has the potential to buy perhaps several years of time for the COVID vaccines to come through and perhaps other treatments to be developed.
There are 10 coronavirus vaccines in the final phase of testing, but none has yet been proven effective. James Gallagher, BBC News.
Let's hope that turns out well. Now, Britain's Got Talent finally crowned its winner last night after the pandemic caused a 6-month delay between broadcasting the auditions and the live show.
And it won't be long before these masks are gone. We'll be living life again to the maximum. And we'll remember people like Sir Captain Tom. And in years...
Captain Tom getting a name check. The musical comedian John Courtney became the first Golden Buzzer act to win the show and bagged himself a coveted slot at the Royal Variety Performance and £250,000. Not bad. Worth the wait then in the end.
It's not a bad first prize, is it? That?
It's not.
And
Congratulations
kind
to
of the kind of entertainment which Britain Got Talent does so well that the whole family can enjoy as well. Just nice, wholesome.
Nice and
emotional.
easy. Nice and easy. Unlike today's papers.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at what the front pages are telling us this morning. We'll start with the Telegraph, and that's looking ahead to the Prime Minister's announcement of further coronavirus restrictions. They are expected tomorrow. The paper says millions will be asked not to travel outside of their local areas, and people could be banned from mixing with other households.
The north-south divide has prompted this eye-catching image in the Sunday People. It claims that Boris Johnson, on the left of the photograph, is becoming more like Margaret Thatcher in his attitude towards Northern England.
I didn't sleep very well after I saw that picture last night, Roger. The Mail on Sunday is reporting that the Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, floated the existing restrictions by, quote, drinking in a Commons bar beyond 10 p.m. and made, quote, a crass joke about the government's test and trace failings. A spokesman for the Health Secretary said no rules have been broken, though.
And one of the trending stories on Twitter, on social media overnight, was Strictly Come Dancing's tribute to its former winner, Caroline Flack, who died in February. A lot of people commented on how moving it was.
It certainly was. A look inside the papers this morning. This caught my eye in the Sunday Times. So lots of people working from home have made fancy pants sheds in their garden as a place where they can work from home efficiently. Somebody said here it's away from the kids, it's a no-kid zone, high-speed internet. But this couldn't be more 2020. You try and make the best out of a COVID situation, and it turns out you could be taxed on that property when it comes to selling it. So people saying, I'm creating a nice workspace at home.
That's a pucker shed as well, isn't it?
It's a fantastic shed. David Cameron with his shepherd's hut there that he's been working in, but actually it could end up costing you when it comes to selling on the house because it's considered a place of work rather than a place of leisure. You cannot win this year, can you?
Just stick a couple... Get all the computers out and shove your lawnmower in there and you might get away with it.
No, we would not endorse that.
This is another coronavirus story. It's a very nicely staged photograph taken in a brook in Scotland, in a stream. Gold prospectors feel the pull of Scotland's streams, it says. Lots of people who've got a bit of time, maybe been furloughed, is the gist of the story, have been panning for gold in Scotland, hoping that they can find some. These two chaps are both quite practised and proficient at it. And it says one of them makes about £6,000 a year in terms of the amount of gold that he manages to find.
Do you know what I love about that? There's so many activities people are taking part in because of coronavirus. We've done like local outdoor swimming we never would have done that in October before coronavirus, but because not allowed to take the kids indoor anywhere, we've been braving the elements.
Bit nippy.
It's a little bit nippy. Have you thought ahead to Christmas yet?
No.
Let me. Of course, it'll always happen. We'll have to make the best of it. Just a warning: if you're planning to shop online, there's not much to see here. But 11 weeks until Christmas. But shoppers are worried because already Ocado delivery slots have been snapped up. You can't get one already for your Christmas shop. Mind you, I like the physical Christmas shop. Well, 3 or 4 rounds of it, just buying bits and bobs. Best bit of the year.
Maybe underwear could be on the shopping list for your loved one. Well, Rihanna apparently has made plus-size men the next big thing. She used a plus-size model to advertise her and to model her latest range of lingerie. Stevie G is the chap, and she's been getting a lot of praise for having plus-size men. Obviously, plus-size women have been involved in
Stevie G. He looks different.
He does.
Not Stephen Gerrard.
No. I was expecting you to do a story about Portuguese wine. That was the story that was getting you most excited.
I'll bore you with that later, Roger.
Yeah.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.